You're listening to Chum Chat Podcast.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome to the first episode of Chum Chat Podcast. Thank you very much. Thank you.
You made it.
Well done. Well done. Finally, I'm beginning this journey of the podcast series. If you're watching or listening, thank you for joining and thank you for supporting. Follow me on Instagram, YouTube, all of the social things. Anyway, Chum Chat is all about inviting my friends and family that inspire me, motivate me, educate me, and make me a better person. And today, first episode, I'm happy to say I've got Chantal Senya with me. Everybody, let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm great. How are you?
How was this new experience for you?
It's my first ever podcast, so it's a new experience, but it's good. I'm
nice.
enjoying it. Yeah, it's nice. I love just sort of coming to the mic, so it's
ASMR with the
it's all
with the
fun.
acrylics. I want to thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
Because it means a lot. Because we're talking about some serious things here. First of all, I'm very proud of you.
Oh, thank you.
I don't know how many times I said first of all. This might be the fifth of all. Anyway, I'm super proud of you.
Thank you.
Writing what you're writing. You're an amazing writer.
Thank you.
But we'll get more into that
Yes.
soon. Do you want to do a little intro for yourself?
I would love to. Yes. Hello, everyone. Hi. My name is Chantal Senya. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm a proud Black British woman from Cambridge. That's about it, really. I love to write. I am a social activist. That's mainly it, really.
That's it. That's a lot.
Yeah, I guess.
That's more than enough. Wicked. So let's talk about your writing. How long have you been freelance writer? Was that what you call yourself?
I wouldn't say that. I like to sort of say that it's like social commentary.
Yeah.
Because I tend to sort of write when like an event has really happened mainly, or if something sort of inspired me or provoked me.
Yeah.
I guess if you want to call it that, you can.
Cool.
I presume. But
So you write. Yeah, you write when you're feeling passionate to write about something.
Yeah. It's quite impassioned. I mean, my activism is quite impassioned anyway. So. But it's very much usually after an event, or if something's just sort of come into me, an idea that sort of pops up, or if I think that something that hasn't been raised in discussion needs to be raised. So I would do that.
That's brilliant. When did it first start then? Was it an event or?
So funnily enough, not funnily enough, my writing began actually after the murder of George Floyd.
Yeah.
So of course, as we all know, the murder of George Floyd was absolutely shocking, and that's not even the right word to sort of use for it. To see someone's death and in such a explicit way, to have it plastered across all social media platforms, to have that the first image that pops up on your social media feed for quite some time as a Black woman was quite scarring. But in saying that, again, even with how I describe it, it's nothing beyond the actual impact of the event itself, and I think that needs to be very clear when discussing the murder of George Floyd. But it stemmed from that, and I remember unfortunately seeing the video and seeing the backlash, and seeing some people actually had the audacity to justify the murder of George Floyd, and after that it just sort of hit me.
That was ridiculous though, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like when it all came out, okay, like that's it for these police officers. That is it. Like they're done. All of them. Was it 3 or 4? 4. They're all done.
Yeah.
Not just the guy that like they're all. That their job is to protect the people of America, and they've just killed someone. Like, do you know what I mean?
It's the blatant misuse of their own privilege as officers. It's the blatant misuse of the social system that they're there to defend and protect. It's the fact that they knew that because of their uniform, even though that they were on camera, that they could get away with doing that.
Abuse of power.
But seeing all of that and sort of seeing the reaction on social media, and even internalizing that pain myself, it just sort of hit me, and I was like, I need to do something. I have to do something. And that's when my writing sort of took place. I feel, the murder of George Floyd sparked my own anti-racism journey, and I guess it's it's new. I guess it's new for a black woman to say that, a year ago my journey sort of started then, really. But that is the case. It began there, and I've never looked back. And yeah, I'm very proud to sort of stand here or sit here and have the ability to sort of do that, the privilege to sort of say what I want to say and make a difference in the greater discourse of racism and, police brutality and what we can do to be an anti-racist society.
Do you think that the murder of George, like after that, did it awaken people, like everyone? I'm talking like people, governments, everything.
Did it awaken people?
Yeah.
Yes and no. So I say that purely because it has, in my opinion, the murder of George Floyd has absolutely shifted the discourse of racism as we know it. As we've ever known it, in fact. I feel that even things like corporations and procedure and processes that, companies take, for instance, in terms of, representation across their staff, representation in their products, representation in, their media, their outreach. I feel that there's been a change. Of course, I'm not here saying that all of that is, genuine, because we've seen now a year since that some of it has been tokenistic, some of that has been performative. But I do think as well that it has also sparked conversation, because we're sat here today talking about it, but also now I feel that everything regarding race is looked at with sort of a very close lens now. It's not an afterthought in conversation. It's now the forefront of conversation. Whether you agree that there is racism does exist, by the way, whether you do agree that racism exists or whether you disagree, the fact of the matter is that conversation has been put on the table. And I even want to say now that even in this conversation, I can't even cover the breadth of what race or racism is. It's an ongoing conversation. It's an ongoing journey that will take a lot of time and resource and energy to even get to the bottom of.
Do you think that there will ever be an end?
Oh, I could feel that question coming. I feel like
you kind of wish, like, as like hope you hope there is.
I hope. Ideally, I would hope that there is an end. I don't know. I really don't know. I think the year in the UK that we've had in relation or as a end product of what's happened with our conversation, with our attitudes to race, I think have been quite. What is even the right word for it? I guess
engaging.
Not even engaging. I think in the UK there's. What am I even trying to say? What is Chantal trying to say?
What are you trying to say?
I don't know. Hold on. I know what I'm trying to say. I feel that the year that we've had in the UK has been quite transformative in the discussion of racism, and there's some sense of. No, there's resistance, but there's some sense of, okay, what can we do about this? Which I think is a great first step to take. Do I think that there's a general consensus that there's an agreement to want to change the system that we currently have? No, I don't think that's there yet. And this is me talking about the UK primarily. It's not even covering the rest of the world and, their own culture, their own societies, their own, institutions and justice systems and their own cultures even. So will we ever get to a society where it's fully anti-racist? I don't know. I really don't know. It's a journey, like I said, so we'll all have to sort of find out.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you.
You've been doing a lot on your social media.
Yes.
Instagram.
Yes.
Mainly. I've got your Instagram here.
Yes.
You've got a series called Blacktivism.
Yes.
It's got 4 volumes.
Yes.
And I'm going to read a bit if you don't mind.
Go for it.
So this is an open letter to the oppressor. This is all her writing, by the way. This is all Chantal. Open letter to the oppressor, the ignorant and the indifferent. I'm just going to scan through it.
No problem.
So this is all from you, yeah?
Yeah. So that was a really emotive piece. I remember. The date. June, yeah. So that was literally.
I've read it already, and like I can just feel like your passion in it.
Thank you. I mean, it was more anger and sadness, but
I see.
that was literally, oh my goodness, 6 days.
60 weeks. Is that 60 weeks ago?
60 weeks ago, but it was 6 days after the murder of George Floyd.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it was pretty emotive, and yeah, I mean, Francesca will read some of it for you.
Okay, so you have tried to silence me and my people from the earliest record of history until now. The lives of billions of families have been generationally impacted by the action of your forefathers. Children as young as 4 are able to recall their first racist encounter before the Tooth Fairy arrives. That is amazing. Like that piece of writing before the Tooth Fairy arrives. And that's obviously, it's just tragic, isn't it?
It is.
As young as 4. Is that something personally as young as 4? Is that something you've read?
It's personal to me. So it's someone close to me that unfortunately had a 4-year-old experience racism, and I guess, you know, it was a really fancy way of putting it forward that racism first and foremost is disgusting, and its impacts, those who are affected by racism, the impacts are completely harrowing. And it's just sad that a child, before, you know, even children are innocent, you know, they have the Tooth Fairy to look forward to, they have Christmas, they have Snow White, all the tours and everything, and to think that that's one of their most earliest memories, not the Tooth Fairy coming along and giving them £5 for losing a tooth, it's someone called me this, someone relates to me in that way. And that really struck me, because it's for me, it's, I think the reason why I'm so vocal is because I just always think, why does that have to happen? Why is that the reality for certain people? But yeah.
We'll carry on reading.
Yes.
Black men are the poster child of violence, and black women are the poster child of abuse and beauty standards. Yet, although the black man and woman have been your model for all that is undesirable, you do not hesitate to take fragments of our rich and large culture to legislate as your own.
So that piece... So the first section, of course, was me challenging the stereotypes that are attributed to black men, which I will not repeat. The second part was also just sort of very loosely touching on the abuse that black women endure. Again, as a black woman, it very much resonates with myself, and to sort of experience microaggressions and, you know, multiple forms of abuse, you know, psychological, emotional, unfortunately for some people, physical abuse for the sake of their skin colour, you know. And unfortunately there is a culture where black women to some extent are seen as scapegoat for said abuse. Black women are seen as able to take the, you know, these forms of abuse. And, you know, me saying that, you know, you're willing to take from our rich and large culture was me also hinting at cultural appropriation. The fact that, for instance, I guess stuff is changing, but for quite some period of time there was the thought process that, you know, having box braids in the office was unprofessional, having, you know, Afrocentric hairstyles is unprofessional, you know, having a black woman articulate herself in a way that is very, you know, for just in a way that anyone would educate, anyone that would articulate themselves, you know. It was seen as, you know, either aggressive, too impassioned, violent. It felt that any form of self-expression that a black person would have would always be justified or always be shut down with, well, you can't have that because that, again, is aggressive. So it's another form of repression. And in having cultural appropriation, it's taking from a set culture and then adopting it as your own without even acknowledging the roots and where it comes from. And, you know, in reference to the box braids, that being unprofessional in a work setting, but then seeing it on runways is complete on, you know, white models is something that, you know, used to really irritate me. Seeing, you know, language, for instance, being taken and completely shifted to completely use its meaning is another thing that really sort of bothers me in the discourse of cultural appropriation also. Yeah,
very well said. While we're on social media, I just wanted to say, did you watch the Euros? I'm guessing you watched the Euros.
I did watch the Euros. To some extent, I'm not a football fan. I mean,
it was going so well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it happens all the time with football. Everyone comes together.
Yeah.
It's all love and peace, and then right at the end, 3 black players miss a penalty, and then boom.
Yeah. Gosh. Yeah, that was a lot. So, yeah, the Euros for me, I'm not, like I said, I'm not a football fan. So I guess when England, sorry, gosh, my words, when England started to, progress, of course, I was naturally like, oh my God, okay, maybe, okay.
Maybe it's coming home.
Maybe it's coming home.
Yeah.
And then it came to the final, obviously, even before I get to that, in England's progression throughout the Euros, I saw a sense of community. I saw like, wow, in the UK, there seems to be a temporal sense of, equality, unity, when I was walking through my area and where I live in London, seeing, the typical football fans like hugging and singing along and dancing with people that were non-white was completely like, shocking, but also quite comforting to see. I just want to say that I stand powerfully with Bukayo Saka, Jadon Sancho and Marcus Rashford. But yeah, so, watching those penalties live, of course it was a tense moment for the entire country, like it was, as everyone said, the biggest football game in England for how many year? But to see, of course, one thing I wrote a piece actually about this, and one thing that I picked up on is that the first thing that was mentioned was their race. Before the third penalty was missed, I already knew that something was going to come out from it. The minute that we'd lost the third penalty, I just knew that it was going to be an increase in absolute, racist barrage.
You knew watching it.
I knew watching it, and that's the sad irony. There was just that it's come back again. That sense of community, that sense of unity that we thought we had, or that we thought we'd progressed to, was completely temporal, and it sort of showed to me that racism in the UK is quite rife and rampant, and to not name any particular figureheads, but to have certain people condemn acts of racism when they were the aggressor and perpetuator of racist ideals and beliefs and cultures that we inhabit or that we have in this country, I think was quite shocking and quite, I guess, counterproductive to the impact that had already ensued or that had already taken, place in lieu of what's happened over the past year in the discourse. But the Euros, I don't really have much to say from that. It was just shocking.
So you would have seen like everything that happened over social media. Did you see about the Portsmouth Academy players? Did you see that one?
No, I did not.
So I used to do the social media for Portsmouth Academy. So I got to know some of the players quite well, the under 18s. And I was disgusted to see that in their Snapchat group chat, straight after, England had lost the final, they were just monkey emojis, N-word.
Yeah.
They were just
everything.
No filter on anything at all. Just boom, 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 and they have young black players in that team as well. Yeah. In that group chat.
Yeah.
And I just hope they get named. Yeah. I'm waiting for Twitter to be like boom.
Yeah. It's just
unless they have. I'm not sure if they have already, but
it's just disgusting. It's the culture where, because of white privilege, they're able to act in a certain way where they can racially abuse as much as they please with certain, races and demographics, and they know that because of their privilege they can more or less get away with that. But thankfully, I believe that we are coming into a culture of, I call it social justice or social media justice, where you see on if someone is saying something or someone's filmed doing a racist act and it's put on social media, for instance, within 24 hours there's action, which I think speaks for itself. And one thing that I do want to put out is even with me witnessing this constant barrage of racial abuse, these players may not see it, but your colleague, but your friend, but your family member, but your neighbour, but your colleague will see these words and thoughts and your frustrations at a football trophy not coming home on social media.
Just childish and just
it's childish. We could go on all day about this, but
while we're on social media, we're gonna I was trying to keep it like a plan of what to talk about when, but we're just gonna gonna blow up.
Free flow.
The fact that it happens so much like it, you know, you've got the positive sides of social media, like sharing everything, the BLM protest, everything, come here, you know, people linking up, great. But then the negatives just completely like overtake that.
It does sometimes, it really does. You know, social media, I think, is probably one of the biggest assets to our current generation. You know, to some extent it's a news source for some people, including myself. And you know, like you said, the negatives of social media, the fact that, you know, how images and videos can be reshared over and over and over and over again. So for instance, with the George Floyd murder, having that video recirculated millions of times, seeing it pop up in various locations, I could mute the word, you know, the hashtag, you know, Derek Chauvin if I didn't want to see his face, but I would still see that horrific image. You know, and I guess another negative impact of social media is that, you know, there are bot accounts, there are people that like to troll, that like to take advantage of the fact that there is a discourse. And
I just, every time I see like this conversation happening on social media, on people, on podcasts, whatever, it always comes down to, why don't they, you know, ask for like identification? For every account that you make, you can make more than one account, whatever, but always you have to verify your ID. And if you ever, you know, if someone, you'll just get caught straight away. Report the comment, boom, got their ID, they're done. And they should get a fucking fine as well. But it always comes down to, but Instagram, you know, they'll miss out on so many people joining. Basically comes down to profit and stuff like that. And it's like, why are we putting these social media platforms their money before people getting racially abused?
So I actually disagree with the use of ID, as ID being used as part of the registration process on social media, purely because I believe that it opens up a lot more room for a lot more unconscious bias. I think it's also counterproductive because it also alienates the individual from their own autonomy and I guess the carefree nature that comes with using social media. But obviously with the abuse of power, then you have to find a way to sort of I don't like to use the word police, but to police, you know, behavior that is on social media. A study that I looked at, which looked at like facial recognition technology, it saw that it actually recognized white American faces a lot more clearer than actual Afrocentric or African American features on camera, which of course would be a big identifier if you're having photographic ID used. So that's one reason for myself as to why I think that's also, you know, quite counterproductive. And also you know, I think that's it. That's about it.
Let's talk about school.
Yes.
Let's go back a bit to school time. Big up Neverhall.
Hi.
So after the George Floyd murder, and you know when the BLM, you know, like blew up.
Yes.
There was things going around like what's the word? Not, you know, racism, but they don't mean it. What's the word? Like like when you're being unconsciously like racist.
Like unconscious bias.
What
like, do you mean?
Like the quotes, quote unquote, I'm not racist, but things like that.
Oh, devil's advocate.
Okay,
yeah. I think you mean like devil's advocate or justification, really. There we go. Yeah. Justification. We found it. Yeah. Jeez. Yeah. Justification for like to sort of dispel the concept of racism. Like,
I'm sorry, but
it's justification. So sorry. Back to school. So in school, the thing is with my anti-racism journey starting about a year ago, I wasn't really, ashamedly, I wasn't really aware of my blackness in secondary school. However, I did have an experience where there was someone that I really liked in secondary school, and they didn't like me, which was fair enough. Of course, life happens. However, they went, every time they saw me, they went through the effort of literally calling me to my face derogatory slurs, terms. Again, I'm not going to repeat them, but again, because I wasn't aware of the significance of that language at the time, it was normal to me. And again, once I stepped, obviously coming out of school and during my, you know, learning journey and process, once I understood those terms and understood the gravity of what was actually going on, which was racism, it sort of, struck me back. I sort of ended up going into, I feel guilty. Why did I not know in the first place? Why didn't I call it out? Why didn't I, report it or do something about it? And I guess those are the questions that even go through people's minds every single time they experience racism. Why didn't I do something? Because one thing that I have noticed that tends to be quite disregarded is the impact of racism. And of course, if you're someone that doesn't experience racism, it is going to be difficult to be able to understand or empathise with someone that experiences that. But as someone that is black and someone that's proudly black, to experience racism, again, how can I even phrase it? It's horrible to be completely and utterly disregarded or to be abused for my very existence, for my very being. I didn't pick my skin colour. I love it, I cherish it, but I didn't pick it. So therefore, why do you feel entitled to penalise me, to scrutinise me, to be prejudiced against me, to, cause harm, and the impacts can be lasting. One thing I noticed, sorry, I'm on a tangent here, but another thing that I sort of picked up from the George Floyd murder, and again, I want to reiterate that the George Floyd murder is not the only, it's not the only horrible incident of racism. It's not the only consequence of racism. There have been several that have died after him. There are several that have died before him. There are people that unfortunately are dying now, or that are still, dying from the impact of racism. And again, racism in itself is so broad. I don't even think I could even cover the breadth or the impact of it in this hour that we have together. But anyways, back to my main point. One thing that I noticed was that the impact of racism is felt across generations, because whether you knew about George Floyd or not, there was always someone that was able to identify with another incident, for instance, the story of Rodney King. Severe police brutality. It was filmed as well. However, those officers went scot-free. Another one, the story of Mark Duggan. Again, another instance of police brutality to its extreme form. And again, people are able to identify, the pain of racism goes beyond even current times. Oh, I shut the table, sorry. Current times, if we're going to talk about the origins, we're talking about colonialism, slavery. So, it's just a shame. It's horrible, and it's annoying. But again, like I said before, I feel like we are really making a change, and I really genuinely believe that, the fact that people are questioning it, the fact that people get pissed off at it, the fact that people try to find...
Well, the police are doing such a shit job. It was recently, just after the George Floyd murder. I was in Portsmouth with my friends, and there's a police officer walking past us, and I go, yeah, I know, not good. No, I'm sorry. What's your opinion on that? It's bad. Yeah, it's bad. Okay, but let me carry on.
No, finish.
So I say it really quietly, because I'm not going to say it loud, because I'm a pussy. My mate next to me, my black mate, he goes really loud. Police officer turned around. It's like, you mate, come here. And he's like, yeah, what? And he goes, how would you like it if I started spatting off about the BLM movement? And I was like,
whoa.
You're comparing yourself, right? You're not a pig, so there you go. You're not a pig.
Yeah.
It's just a stupid little game that we do. But you're comparing being called a pig, which you're not, to the Black Lives Matter movement that was recently sparked by a police officer, by the way.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
He went red in the face. He didn't know what to say, and his mate was behind him like.
And you called that out.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. So carry on before I even.
I mean,
shouldn't
call. Don't call them pigs. It's not nice, innit? But
they do that. You can have your opinion.
But his reaction.
The reaction. I will never. Yeah, the reaction is and like you said, justly, the fact that that person felt the need to compare it to the Black Lives Matter movement, which actually started in 2013 after the unjust murder of Trayvon Martin by Officer George Zimmerman. It was after his acquittal that movement completely began in the US and has completely taken over the world, and I love it. But to use that and the sentiment behind that as a response to a sound, to my understanding, has no racial connotations, no associations to pain or, police brutality or wanting to seek equality, equity, justly have the right to live. I think it's completely insane, and I think it reflects actually some of the attitudes that are here in the UK when it comes to racism.
And the police, the attitudes of the police. Like, he was so sour. Sour enough to
say that to a black man, I think is completely horrible. And for instance, the fact that in a study between 2019 to 2020, out of 1,000 people in the UK, only 6 white people would be stop and searched, in comparison to 54 black people being stopped and searched by the police. Again, that's just one example of a statistic that doesn't even cover the breadth of the impact of institutional racism. Again, that could go on for hours and hours in terms of discussion. But another example I want to use in terms of that I felt sort of reflected the attitudes at the time of law enforcement was during the Black Lives Matter protests. So one thing that I like to say when it comes to anti-racism is to protest peacefully. I think that your voice is the strongest thing, the strongest asset that you have to, challenging the system that we have as we know it. But anyways, so I was at the protests in June, so again after the murder of George Floyd, and that really sparked a lot of discussion in the UK, and it's also one of the influences behind the current policing bill that is trying to be pushed in the UK to silence our right to protest, but I won't go on to that. So during the protests, I noticed a lot of heavy police presence. I guess you could argue a lot of people there, a lot of police officers.
Is this London? The
London Black Lives Matter protests. But one thing I noticed is that the atmosphere was very, very tense. Very, very tense. And rightly so. We're talking about the murder of a black man under police custody. Of course it's going to be tense. However, it was a completely peaceful protest, very respectful. I will say until a certain moment where someone actually threw a flare into Downing Street, which I don't agree with at all. No matter how you feel about the current government, I just don't think it's right to do that. Obviously, myself and the people that I was protesting with, we saw already what was going to happen, so we decided to remove ourselves from the situation. We saw what was coming. Before we could even turn around and take a step to even move, there was literally, it was the road by, is it not Marble Arch? Trafalgar Square, there we go. Vans, literally riot vans parked up, squared us in, police horses rammed in the front of them. They didn't usher the horses in, they charged them into us. And of course, complete and utter panic, complete and utter sheer just fear, really. They had closed down neighbouring stations as well to sort of like corner people in. I remember there was a lot of anger as well around the time, but I guess that handling of the Black Lives Matter protests versus the there was a protest actually the week after. It was actually led by Tommy Robinson.
I remember that.
Yeah, that protest. And conversely, it's on my Blacktivism highlight actually. The level of policing at that event compared to the Lives Matter protest was completely different. There were no horses from what I could see on the footage that was being shared on social media. There was no excess use of force, which is what was done at the Black Lives Matter protest. In fact, some of the people that were at the alternative counter protest, or whatever you want to call that, it wasn't a peaceful protest, it was just hooliganism. Is that even a word? I'm making it a word. No, it is. It was just completely shocking. And again, that is another image or another example of how, attitudes in, institutions that we're meant to see as carriers of justice, carriers of, safety, is completely abused.
Yeah.
But that's, again, you could really, really go into detail again. But yeah.
So obviously, social media is a big tool to use to
Yes.
spread awareness.
Yes.
As has been happening over the past year.
Yes.
What would you say to? Because I know, even myself, sometimes you're a bit what's the word, wary
Yeah.
of what you want to
Yeah.
share. You want to really understand what it
Cautious,
is you're sharing. You don't want to just share that.
Yeah.
You might share the wrong thing. What would you say to people that are on social media platforms?
Mm-hmm.
What can they do to help?
Okay. First things first, in order to be against racism, you have to be anti-racist, not non-racist, not I'm not racist, because I believe that term is quite, allows for neutrality. It allows for, it's quite a lame excuse. It's quite a lame way of holding yourself accountable to being anti-racist. But my point being is that you need to be anti-racist, and in being anti-racist, it is to explicitly stand against the racism as a construct, and to also if you are someone that does not experience racism, to be a compassionate and proactive ally, not a tokenistic one, but a proactive ally. 2, to demonstrate compassionate curiosity. So if you don't know, and you're speaking to your friend that is, Black, Asian, Indigenous, any other ethnic minority, if you are speaking to someone you want to sort of get to know, exercising compassionate curiosity is one way of doing that. Another way to be anti-racist, is calling it out. If you see racism, whether it's on social media, whether it's in real life, call it out. Of course, people may be uncomfortable, but the conversation and the experience of racism is uncomfortable. So, calling it out, and also self-awareness, to be able to look into yourself and look at your own personal biases and look at how they shape your way of thinking, and see, okay, how can I change that? But finally, also empathy. Like I've mentioned already several times now, the impact of racism in itself is devastating, to say the least. So to be able to, if you again don't experience racism, to be able to look at someone and say, I'm sorry, but how can I help you, or how can I, make this situation better for you, is a great way to start. On social media, one thing I would say is to have credible sources. So make sure that you are really vetting the profile that you're looking at. If you're looking at a particular profile, maybe even to the extent of who they follow, what they post, always fact check as well. I believe, even without social media, that the way that we can dispel racism is through education. Education and knowledge are the biggest, and language are the biggest tools and biggest assets to dispelling racism. So educate yourself. I'm sure you've heard that phrase several times, but educate yourself. It's so important. Read, listen to podcasts.
That's what we're doing.
Listen to this podcast, Chum Chat. Speak to someone, talk to someone about things. But so back onto what I was saying. So the post that you're looking at, if you're unsure, you can always fact check it. Fact checking I think is a really, really good way of seeing where the proactive allyship is it distinguishes the proactive allyship from the performative allyship. One person that I would recommend solely, and I love this person's work. I think they are absolutely incredible, and that they are a force in the discourse of racism in the UK. I think she's absolutely insane, and I hold her actually as one of my biggest inspirations as to why I write now. Kelechi Okafor, I'm shouting you out. I am manifesting that collaboration.
It's gonna happen.
Let's work together. Let's have a conversation. Let's have a chat, a podcast, whatever. Yeah. Yes, but Kelechi Okafor. I believe she goes by the name of Kalechnikov. I will get Francesco to put the at there. Great activism. She's very direct. She says it how it is. Very unafraid, and I love that. And I think with anti-racism, you need to be unafraid to do that. On social media, what else can you do to educate yourself? I would say as well, if you do see images of black violence, to completely to disengage from it. I just think it's it's damaging. I think it can, like I said, to have those images completely and utterly repeated over and over again or shared over and over again, I think is not really right, and is also quite, damaging to the psyche. I think to some extent it desensitizes the individual from the actual event that takes place.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I think, that's what I would say from what I can think of in terms of...
I mean, I agree with all of that, but definitely go out there and follow, people that are educating constantly, because that's what helped me. Just learning like different things. I didn't notice that before. Now I know. Just follow as many accounts, people that you can. Listen to podcasts like this, and
I'm trying to think of who else I would recommend to follow. I'd say just get out there. Another book, a couple of books that I would actually recommend would be How to Be Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. Another book I would also recommend is Why I'm Not Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo Lodge. Again, it's quite a good book to pick up if you're unfamiliar about the discourse of race, and if you want to sort of get yourself picked up and up to speed with it. That's what I can think of so far in terms of profiles, but that's what I would say. Just start there, really.
Just get out there, have conversations with people, friends, family.
And if you're unsure, it's okay to ask. Of course, in the conversation of racism, people are I've noticed that some people are afraid to talk about it because they're scared of getting things wrong.
Yeah.
One thing I like to say is that, to some extent, it's okay to get things wrong as long as you're willing to correct yourself and make the difference and make the change.
You have to be willing to put your hands up and go,
you have to look at yourself.
I'm sorry, and then move on.
Challenge yourself, and then we can get things moving forward, kind of thing. So if you do get something wrong and someone calls you out for it, accept it. It is a learning process. In having the UK hopefully being an anti-racist country and being anti-racist, you need to be able to really reflect inwards in yourself, again, process, really evaluate yourself, your ideals, and how you affect your community. Again, we are individual, however, we do belong to families, communities, systems. We all are a contribution to the schism that is life as we know it. Just get yourself out there, really have conversations. It's okay to get things wrong. Again, to get things wrong does not exclude or does not excuse, the use of derogatory term or slurs or non-inclusive language. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about if you're unsure of a particular, phrase, why certain things, why white privilege is a thing, why racism is a thing, why race as a social construct is a thing,
like I said from the beginning, you're always amazing to talk to.
Oh, bless you. Thank you.
Got to get you on here again. This can't be the only time. This can't be the one and only. Much. Is there anything else you want to cover yourself?
I think it'll be quite useful to sort of cover begin, because I can't answer this in an hour, but to sort of very briefly cover racism and what it is and why we're here, really. So racism is the systemic subordination of a racial group. And again, in the systemic subordination of a racial group, that includes, systems of prejudice, discrimination, abuse, non-inclusive behaviours, you name it. In racism, there are 4 levels. So there is the personal level, which is where it's your own internalized beliefs, your own belief system. So it's where you develop, your feelings of superiority. Inferior, so who you assign your inferiority to, feelings of inclusion and exclusion as well. So how you think and how what you associate to those certain principles is your personal, is what we call personal racism. Interpersonal racism is where is racism, but it's between yourself and another person or another group of people. So that's where stereotypes come in. That's where unconscious bias comes in, because you're now acting upon your personal beliefs, which is the first level, on another person. You're now taking that out on another individual. Which again, I think it's really horrible. Interpersonal racism is where bigotry comes in. It's where ignorance, sort of takes in. Again, racism is ignorance in its anyways, it's ignorance full stop, but you sort of see that. The third level is institutional. So it's where, systems like the justice, gosh, if I could talk, the justice system, for instance, healthcare, education, any institution or body of government or society, as you know it, it's where, all of that is influenced by racism to again disadvantage a particular ethnic minority or minorities, and is also built to benefit non-white ethnic groups. So it's why, like we mentioned earlier, it's why, for instance, with stop and searches, that disproportionality takes place. It's why and unfortunately I hate that that's why, but it's the reality. It's why black women are 4 times likely to die from childbirth. It's anyways, before I even get off topic. And the last level is systemic racism. So that is, if you want to look at it as like a visual thing, it is the overarching theme of these 4 levels. So this is more or less the system, which was built from colonialism, slavery. If I can sort of get this right, it's generational patterns that have been put in place. It's embedded. It's what is, what I mentioned about going through generations and cultures. It's what we know. So those are the 4 levels of racism. Of course, within that you have different, caveats. So for instance, microaggressions, which is, acts of aggression that, unless you're affected by it or unless you are sort of aware, aren't sort of picked up on. So for instance, can I touch your hair? If you have natural hair, can I touch your hair is a microaggression. Actually, no, not asking. Touching someone's hair without permission is a microaggression. There we go. Touching someone's hair without asking is a microaggression. Assuming, so stereotypes is racism, but again, another form of microaggression. But yeah, there's that also to cover as well. So another thing that I want to sort of very briefly mention when it comes to racism and microaggressions is also the fact that racism isn't just the use of derogatory language. I think a lot of people sort of misconstrue that as if I didn't call you this, then I'm not racist. Being colorblind is a form of racism because you're not acknowledging someone's identity. My skin color is who I am. So for someone to say, that's why when people say being colorblind is not good enough, colorblind is again not seeing someone's race, or you may hear, oh, I don't see color. That's not okay, because you're dispelling someone's identity completely. It also shows that you don't see them as an individual at all, which again is not right or fair. It's what makes us. It's what makes me a black woman. But also, again, it's what I mentioned about the non-racist. It's another point of neutrality. It's a way of dodging accountability and dodging a way of actually confronting the thing that is racism. So white privilege is one thing that I do want to sort of mention before we close off today, is like a little thinking point or a talking point really. White privilege is the reality, or is it's not even a concept, but it's the realization of systems that have been built to advantage white people. So it's why you may hear a lot about CVs. If you look at CVs, if you see like a Caucasian or white sounding name over an African or an Asian name, they're more likely to pick the white name. It's why in your story, it's why when you walked past the officer and made that noise, he didn't turn to you, but when your black friend did, he turned to that to him. So white privilege, when we say white privilege, it's a fact, it's a reality, it's what we live in. White privilege, I guess, would be the fact that George Floyd's murderer, Derek Chauvin, only got 22.5 years rather than the full 40 for manslaughter. And one thing that I've sort of noticed with the conversation of, white privilege is that one of the first instances is defensiveness, or why if you're saying that I've got white privilege and you're racist. No, that doesn't exist. Your defensiveness is actually a result of your fragility. And one thing in the discourse of racism, which is very important, is as a black person, as an ethnic minority, it is not my job to make you feel good. If you're defensive at the mention of your apparent privilege, imagine us experiencing the racism. If us wanting to dispel racism, if us wanting to make a societal difference bothers you, that one makes me aware that you're aware of your privilege and the fact that you don't want that to change, and that because your white privilege benefits you, why do you want to see a societal change that allows everyone to be equal? Why is it a problem for you to see others, enjoy the same life, not the same life, but enjoy, the ability to walk alone at night, the ability to not have to worry about being stopped and searched, the ability to not have to be followed around a shop, when you're minding your business, the ability to not have someone racially abuse you if you don't score a penalty. Do you know what I mean? So there's so much that goes there, but the defensiveness against white privilege is called white fragility. But with white privilege, it's one thing that I think needs to be really important here is to also, if you are white, to accept that you have white privilege. Rennie Edo Lodge says this really well. She mentioned this in a podcast that I listened to the other day, that the general assumption is that when you accept your white privilege, that they believe that they are racist, which I'm not saying that all white people are racist. That's not the case. But the point being here is that you need to actually accept it and then also see how you can use your privilege to make sure that there is an equitable and diverse space for everybody to, have their right to live freely. And again, another image that, Rennie Edo Lodge uses is, I guess, talking about what we mean when we say equality, equity is the illustration of stairs. So for example, myself as an able-bodied individual, I can walk up some stairs, whereas if someone that is disabled and is a wheelchair user that may have to use the exact same stairs, they don't have that level of privilege, whereas I do because I can use those stairs. Now in saying that, in having that privilege, if I can call it out, if I can question it and say, why are those stairs here? Why is there not, accessibility for these people? That's what we talk about when we talk about equity. It's questioning it, it's challenging it, it's also finding a way to make sure that we are all level. But when you don't challenge it, that's using your privilege, and that's your awareness of the benefit that you get from that. So those are a couple of things that I sort of want to leave, I guess, as a cliffhanger for our next sort of conversation. But I thought it'd be very useful to discuss what racism is before finishing off today and what white privilege is and stuff. So
Wicked. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
For the 4th, 5th time, you're a brilliant speaker, and
thank you.
I love listening to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you teach me things, you inspire me, and that's why you're here.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise.
And we've got to get you on again, because there's so much. I can tell that for you, there's loads that you want to talk about.
There's so much. I
want to talk about. There's loads.
There's so much.
We'll definitely get you back.
Yeah.
On again.
Thank you. I would love to. Yeah. There is so much to talk about there is so much to talk about when it comes to racism, how to be anti-racist, and I said this earlier, but the journey to being anti-racist is continuous. There is no set solution. If we were in an anti-racist society, we wouldn't be here having this conversation. So there's so much I want to share with you guys, talk about. If you have any questions, any queries, if you're unsure on certain terms, phrases, I'm sure Francesca will pop my social media down for you, but you're always welcome to drop me a message. We can talk, we can debate, but let's not debate what racism is, though, and don't try and dispel racism being an actuality. That's not what I'm here for, but we can talk, we can chat.
We've got a little game just to end it off.
Fab.
It's called Wrong Answers Only. Okay.
What?
So I'll ask you a question and you have to give the wrong answer.
Okay, cool. Okay. Is there any prize for the game, or is it just?
No, I don't even have that many questions. I've got to come up with them myself.
Oh gosh, okay.
Right, question number 1. Wrong answers only. Question number 1. Would you date Boris Johnson? I was like, no, you don't want to do that one.
Sorry.
Is that?
That's.
It's wrong answers only. So you say absolutely.
I can't even speak. That's how disgusted I am.
Okay, we'll do
yeah. Oh gosh, you people listening in that can't see this. Gosh, how can I be sarcastic over a podcast? Yeah, totally.
What What do you think about me?
I hate you.
Why?
Because I hate you.
Why? Give me a specific reason as to why you hate me.
Gosh. Because your plant isn't directly in the centre.
Oh, I see. What is the capital of England?
Wales.
Have you ever been to Wales?
No.
Really?
I have. Sorry. Is
How-
this still the
we're
same
still
game?
playing the
Oh! Sorry. No, I have not. No.
How old are you?
2.
How many kids do you want?
None.
When do you want to get married?
Tomorrow.
To who?
Myself. Self-love, people. Self-love.
But what do you mean self-love? Because you said yourself, but you don't mean that.
Oh, fuck. Oh,
No!
I love myself.
I'm the winner. Okay, that's a good way to end it. I like it.
shit. Yes, a few laughs.
I'm way too close. That's gonna be loud. Sorry.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry about that. ASMR.
Those are my critics for those who can't see.
Can you do it in here? It's feeling a bit lonely. Anyway, yeah. Chum Chat Podcast. I hope you've enjoyed the first episode. Wonder what you're doing while you've been listening. Maybe clean your room or... That's what I do. Clean my room, podcast. Yeah.
I'm quite boring. I like to make notes.
Cooking.
Ooh.
You make notes on podcasts?
I like to make notes, yeah.
That's good though. That's clever.
Thank you.
Because there's a lot you learn in podcasts.
Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah.
Hope you had a good day. Hope you've eaten. Hope you've slept well. I hope you are on your journey to being anti-racist.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Tell someone you love them. Hug them. Yeah.
Wicked.
Don't be a dick.
Don't be a hater.
Don't be a hater.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Please subscribe.
Follow, subscribe, whatever. Just follow the journey, man. Yeah.
Follow the journey.
Yeah, if you did listening, give it a little like.
Yes.
Live it a little like.
Yes.
Live a little like.
Like, comment, subscribe,
Yeah.
follow, share wide with your friends, family,
Worldwide.
with your dog, with your cat. We're manifesting a year from today 100,000 subscribers on Chom Chat Podcast. And it's called The Power of Manifestation. And we're talking about global reach here. We're this time next year, yeah. We'll be having a 100,000 subscriber party. We'll be having your 50th episode out. You'll be out there fully in your element. Here is the moment.
I need to get on this manifestation.
Yes.
My girlfriend's always talking. I'm bad with it.
You need to. Positive thinking.
Positivity.
Yes.
Anyway, yeah.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
See you soon and follow. You want follow us?
Yes, please. So you will find. Oh gosh, I can't even. It's such an awkward username, but yes, you can follow me on Instagram. So I will spell it out for you if you can. Yeah, I'm so sorry. So it is _queen. Because I am a queen. _queen. And Francesca will pop it somewhere on the screen for you. CHX 5N. So yeah, and then Y. So it's meant to be at Queen. At _Queen Shani. Yeah. So you can find me on social media. You'll be able to find the Blacktivism channel that I have there. Yeah, you'll find that there. You'll have my you'll see what I do every now and then. And yeah, my writing will be on there as well. My writing is usually posted on those channels.
Check out the articles.
Thank you. But yeah.
Ciao.
Bye.
Subscribe.
Chum Chat. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, that was so cute.
That was a good one. That was amazing.